There's this theme I've seen among my own readers and viewers and elsewhere in this living abroad niche. It's that life abroad is a certain way, and that all of us living abroad in France belong to this homogenous group made up of people with the same experiences and ideas. And that is just not accurate. Let's talk about this. Bonjour tout le monde. Welcome back to We in France. I'm Diane if you're new here, and we're just going to jump right into it. Over the years, I've seen crazy comments and emails that express this underlying assumption that every single person who moves to any area of France for whatever reason is going to, one, fall in love with the lifestyle, two, the culture, the people, the healthcare, and everything. And along with that is this belief that France and everything that comes along with France is inherently superior to life elsewhere, hands down, across the board, everywhere, for everyone. And no, just no, it doesn't work like that. And the question I have is, how can anyone rationally believe that? Yet I see it expressed over and over again here online and also in real life. And even if so many aspects of life in France are phenomenal, it's certainly not a utopia where everyone and everything is perfect. There are absolutely pros and cons to life anywhere, and I'm the first person to speak up about that. It's true. I firmly believe that anyone who says life in France is perfect and they've never struggled with anything here, they're either lying or they haven't lived here long enough yet. And I know this to be true because life isn't perfect or free of struggles, no matter where you live. And yes, that includes France. Living in France, it's real life, and it comes with the good and the bad. Now, people on the outside looking in, they make assumptions about what life is like abroad without really taking the time to explore the experience for themselves beyond what they see on social media and maybe beyond their own experience. Most of the time, I feel like people making these assumptions, they've never lived abroad, and they feel that your experience isn't living up to what they built it up to be in their heads. Or if they have lived abroad, they're the ones who moved to France and kind of play house, and they're really critical of someone's life that's very different than the one that they've lived. I've personally been told, well, you should live in Paris, go live in the capital. You should only shop at the farmer's market, that I should get another dog, that I should only speak French at home, that I should only cook from scratch from fresh fruits and vegetables that I buy at that farmer's market. And if you've been watching a while, you know how much I love the word should. On top of that, another trend I've noticed is that when anyone living abroad expresses any type of critical thought about their life, someone will come at them aggressively with a comment along the lines of them not being grateful enough for their experience abroad, or tell them that they aren't doing the living abroad thing right. You're experiencing the country wrong. And all of this invalidates the person's lived experience, maybe something that they're struggling with right now, just because they're being negative. And my absolute favorite, retort to something is, well, if you don't like it in France, go home. That's so helpful, isn't it? I made an entire video on that. If you don't like it, go home. Here, I hate that. But anyway, it's one thing to have a critical discussion that remains respectful and tries to understand the other person's point of view, and it is another thing entirely to act dismissive and rude. And I don't know about you, but I don't love everything and agree with everything about the United States, but I sure as heck don't tell people living there that they should move away if they don't fall absolutely in love with every aspect about North American culture. I personally didn't love New York City rush hour. I loved my life in New York City, and I was already home. So, we should all leave if we have a problem with anything at all? I think certain aspects of life in general can provoke critical thoughts and negativity. We're humans. We notice things. No matter where we live, life is life. And we think about stuff, we reflect, we analyze. Not all of that is good. So of course, life abroad in France or anywhere, it's not exempt from that fact that we think. And to ignore anything critical or negative, I feel would be like putting blinders on our eyes. And that's not real life either. For the record, you can still love a place and enjoy yourself there while still noticing the not so positive aspects of life. They aren't mutually exclusive. And I think it's more normal to see pros and cons than to see everything through these like rose-colored glasses. I picked green for today, but rose-colored glasses all the time. And when I see someone acting rudely towards someone else expressing a critical thought because their living abroad mentalities aren't identical, it says to me that the person doing the shaming places a really high value on the idea of living abroad, that it's hashtag goals and amazing and something they would love to do. And you should be grateful that you live abroad all the time about everything and never express that anything is hard. And I say that's awesome if living abroad is a goal of yours or just happens to be where life has taken you. It can be amazing. It is amazing. So take the steps to do something amazing for yourself instead of criticizing others for their sometimes hard to process feelings. Anyway, this is all to say, I see this sentiment over and over again that if we're living life outside of the norm of what's expected, that we're missing out or we're not doing the living abroad experience correctly. Maybe we don't travel enough or speak French fluently enough by other standards. But please remember, we never know fully what's going on in someone's life. Coming at someone defensively and full of judgment or projecting your own struggles onto them, it's never helpful. And I want to give you 3 examples that I personally know of where people abroad were hurt by ignorant comments. And sure, we could say brush it off, don't let them hurt you, but it's much easier said than done, especially when you're already low. So number 1, a newly single mom working at a minimum wage job abroad to provide for her 2 children, getting shamed online for not traveling more and seeing how beautiful the country is when she barely has any money to buy food or any free time for that matter. She's just getting by. Number 2, a person writing on an expat forum about how hard the bureaucracy is in France and asking if someone can help with a few simple translations in French, and then getting told, well, you've been abroad now in France for 5 years. You should speak French fluently by now. Not realizing that the person's spouse just died and that was their lifeline. And the bureaucracy has been particularly hard to deal with when you're alone and grieving and you don't have any support. And number 3, a retiree telling a student living abroad who's having trouble making friends, and instead of helping them with actionable tips, they don't realize that this person is suffering from crippling depression and anxiety. And by telling them, well, just get out more, try harder, they don't realize that it took every single ounce of their strength to pursue a study abroad program in the first place. So those are just examples. I could give you many, but no one living their life abroad is doing anything more right or less right than anyone else. Most of us, we're just living our life on our own terms, trying to do the best we can in the moment. And I think the best thing we could do in life, not just living abroad, but in life, is to offer support and understanding. Because like I said, life abroad's real life. It's not always pretty. And I've told you many times that one of the hardest things about living abroad for me personally is experiencing real life struggles just in a different culture and language. And if you're abroad long enough, you or someone you love, they're going to go through a hard time. Maybe they're going to experience something, or you will, something like death of a loved one, a health crisis, relationship issues, financial issues, job stress, something along those lines. And, maybe that's not what an old friend wants to talk about when you only have 10 minutes to catch up on a Saturday morning. It's not what people want to read about on blogs or hear about on YouTube. These people who have it so great that live abroad and their life's perfect, but they have problems too. But it's real. And I think so often we share our best lives online, and that goes double for people on travel blogs and spaces where beautiful imagery sells the dream. We share the good, the shiny, the positive, the beautiful, and we upload the best vacation pics of ourselves smiling and looking good and happy. But we need to talk about the other side too, because it's real life, and real life is not always good and shiny and beautiful. Why should we pretend that it is? I think that feeds into the notion that life abroad is a cure-all for all of life's ills, and kind of feeds this whole thing that I started with, the assumption that everyone abroad thinks life abroad is superior to elsewhere. Something I stress on my blog is that everyone's experience abroad is going to be different. And when readers write to me to ask me general questions, I always preface my replies with, well, in my experience, because we all chose a life abroad for different reasons, and we bring our own ideas and backgrounds and needs to our new life. So there's no single answer that can satisfy people sometimes. There's no single life in France experience that's going to be the same across the board for everyone. So yeah, my answers are always unique to where my life has taken me. And I feel like I just want to continue on here with a few reasons why life abroad is not one size fits all, right? I think of these questions. What are your motivations for moving abroad? How old are you? What life stage are you in? Are you single? Are you with a partner? Are you moving to a big city, to a small town? Will you be working? Are you resilient? Are you a strong person? Do you have support from friends and family? Do you speak the language? That's a big one. Do you have kids? Will they attend a local school? What's your financial situation like? And will your time abroad have an end date? And maybe most importantly, what are you looking to gain abroad and what are you ready to sacrifice? And I think that kind of sums up why there are so many reasons for why our lives look different abroad. And honestly, my days probably look a lot like yours, just in a different culture and language. Most days, my life is nothing fancy. I work, I grocery shop, I work out, I clean. I used to walk my dog Dagny before she passed away. I'm not just passing through here in France for a set period of time. I moved here permanently, or as permanently as anything can be. You know, I have Tom, my French spouse. I don't live in Paris. I didn't study French in college. And I try to look on the bright side of things. And most of all, I try to get back up when I fall. I'm just an American living abroad in France, nothing more, nothing less. That's why over on Facebook, I do my best to share articles from all different types of people, not just those living in France, not just those, who live my experience with stories from people just like me. I try to make it a little more diverse. And I try to share the good stuff, but also stories from people who have struggled or who are struggling, and perspectives from everyone in between, because only sharing the rosy stuff, well, that's not real life, and life isn't all rosy all the time. So doing so, it just wouldn't feel authentic to me. What really grinds my gears is when I see someone shame another person's experience or their perception or their feelings just because those things don't match up with their own experience or what their idea of what life abroad is like or what it should be. But just to wrap up here, there's no typical life abroad experience. We have all valid stories, and it's so important to keep our ears open, our minds open. My experience is my own, and thank you so much for letting me share it with you here on YouTube, over on my blog. If you read it, link down below. I really appreciate you being here, for listening, and with that, I'll see you back on We in France soon. Salut!